of this report. Mr. Speaker, I beg to table and ask the Honorable Senator Boni Khalwale to second the motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, seconding this motion to me is very significant because I believe if the recommendations of the committee that sat on the National Dialogue Committee, NADCO, were to go through, there would be momentous change in the way we practice politics, in the way we govern the country, in the way we live, Mr. Speaker. I therefore want to strongly support and highlight just a few reasons why I think this is important. Mr. Speaker, I have full confidence in the membership that sat on NADCO and also the JAILA Committee in the National Assembly and in this House, Mr. Speaker, and therefore would remain in total agreement with most, if not all, the recommendations contained therein. Mr. Speaker, I say so.
Senator Fatuma, you may want to consult in a low tone so that you don't disrupt the thinking and flow of thoughts of Senator Boni. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I say so with a degree of pride that the original bipartisan committee that gave birth to NADCO, I was actually a member on that particular committee. And Mr. Speaker, I see a few things that stand out, and one I would like to speak to very quickly is the 2/3 gender rule. This has remained a vexing issue since the new constitution was promulgated, Mr. Speaker. It does not matter that many attempts, I believe up to 13, have been made to attempt to achieve the 2/3 gender. What matters is, why did it fail the first time, second time, all the way up to the 13th time? Maybe the kind of public participation that we allow to take place when it comes to this provision is not adequate or could be done in a better manner. Just like the majority of you who are privileged to come from houses where the majority are the female gender. Like, Mr. Speaker, most men, you are there, you are the only man heading the house, but there's a wife there, there's a daughter there, there are third phone, and so on. You always find that you are crowded. So we are very comfortable handling issues of women. And we love them, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we'll give it to them. But I want to challenge not the women folk, but the people who will benefit from the 2/3 gender rule. I would like them to allow us also to democratize the process of identifying beneficiaries. Mr. Speaker, I mean that in its current form, it's difficult to know how one senator nominated or one member of the National Assembly nominated found their way into these two houses. I've never understood how they manage. I was trying to have a small discussion with my young senator, Zena, on how they did, and she told me, go away. So I'm still waiting, Mr. Speaker, for the privilege of hearing from her how she made it. It is so difficult. I therefore propose that under the new structure, women who get nominated should not be nominated by political parties. They should be allowed to undergo a process of election that the voters shall be only women. Women of Kenya, if we have got 16 slots of senators to vote, then those names should be presented to the public, And then those 16 names should be voted for. The top 16, they cross the line and they become nominated. People living with disabilities. Again, I don't know how they get nominated. We should allow people living with disabilities to be the principal decision makers. They subject the beneficiaries to a vote. And finally, Mr. Speaker, on this particular point, the people who get through these special seats, the 47 women elected in the National Assembly, plus whatever number we shall add them, they should be allowed to run for that election only once. A woman MP representing a county should not be allowed to be re-elected more than once. They should learn the ropes in the first 5 years. At the end of it, they go for competitive seats. Similarly, people living with disabilities should serve for 5 years. After 5 years, they then face a competitive election. Why? Mr. Speaker, the spirit of nomination was not to create an opportunity for people to get freebies. It was an opportunity which was meant in the letter and spirit of this Constitution to allow, quote unquote, people with limited capacities to win an election to learn how the gurus like Raila Odinga, like Uhuru Kenyatta, like Musalia Mudavadi, like Boni Khalwale. And I say this because we are the guys who have won elections, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but in my case, 5 times. We are the gurus. So that they learn from us how we do it, and then they go and compete. Not to keep on hanging outside this door wanting to come here, one election after another one, that I want to benefit from nomination over and over again, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the second point I want to speak to is that you have seen the wind behind the sails of wanting to see NADCO suddenly become strong at a time that the President and the former Prime Minister have created some camaraderie, Mr. Speaker. I am hoping that this newfound interest in making sure that NADCO goes through is not for purposes of serving the broad-based government. The broad-based government, just like the handshake government BBI that was there, it will go the way that government went. So we cannot afford a situation whereby we want to amend the Constitution so as either to massage the egos of the proponents of the broad-based government or to reward the beneficiaries of the broad-based government. Mr. Speaker, we are all men and women of this republic, and we hear both the normal talk and the talk in the grapevine, and these days the talk on social media, which is part of our lives. I don't like what I'm hearing, Mr. Speaker. What I'm starting to hear at those 3 levels is as if somebody wants to fix another person, somebody wants to fix a particular party and not the other one, somebody wants to fix a particular region at the expense of another one, and somebody even wants to fix a community. If that is the spirit of broad-based government, it would be wrong. We should never punish anybody. I hear repeatedly, oh, Kashagwa ho, oh, Rigiji ho. The story of Rigiji is gone. Rigiji was given an opportunity in this house to face me, to face Omogeni, to face all of us, and he chickened out. So that is a story which is gone. Let all politicians, especially from Mount Kenya, enjoy equal opportunity in the broad-based government. Mr. Speaker, when we were constituting the new look committees, unknown to this House, Mr. Speaker, I failed to discharge my role as a chief whip, who under our standing orders is supposed to take the lead in reconstituting committees. Because as a man who joined the struggle at an early age of 22 years at the University of Nairobi, I find it difficult to be part of an exercise that was meant to be exclusive rather than inclusive. This is the way to go. Today you're on top, tomorrow you are not. Today you are on the strong side of the wind, tomorrow you are not. We want to build a country that gives all Kenyans equal opportunity. I see, for example, Mr. Speaker, some noise building around certain members of parliament, and not members of parliament, members of the cabinet, that probably X, Y, or Z might be removed so as to pave way for the new look broad-based government. I want to send an early warning. This will be wrong. Whoever is starting to raise issues on Dr. Deborah Mulongo Barasa, if you think that is the way to fix the broad-based government, you should know that also Mulongo, who did not, by the way, apply for that job, she was very busy in her medical practice. She also comes from a community, and that community has heavy fighters, and sometimes we throw very heavy punches, up to and including Dr. Boni Khalwale. Nobody should intimidate Dr. Mulongo. Mr. Speaker, the issue of IEBC in this report, we should expedite the process because, Mr. Speaker, the other day we lost our colleague from Baringo. The people of Baringo need, that delegation needs a senator here. Mr. Speaker, 4 members of parliament have lost their lives. 3 members of parliament have lost their lives, and 1 member of parliament lost his seat through a petition. Those 4 constituencies deserve representation. Not to mention, Mr. Speaker, the 14 wards that have lost MCS for one reason or another. But even as we do so, this will depend on the integrity of the selective panel. Selective panel, wherever you are, please, please, don't do to us what, bring to us the same mistakes, Mr. Speaker, that your predecessors visited this country. We've been in this country long enough, Mr. Speaker, to know that one of the greatest destabilizers of national unity, national peace, democratization, Mr. Speaker, is the elections of Kenya. And its integrity is tested around the commission and its chairman. Please give us good people. I went through the advert you made last week, and I saw the people who had applied to be commissioners. I have seen some fairly very good names amongst the professionals who have expressed interest. Please, selection panel, avoid the temptation to recycle names. Just because a name is an old name in the papers, in the media, in public domain, they should not be given preference. Let the interviewing process be accompanied with the loads upon loads of integrity so that we get the best commissioners and the best chair, Mr. Speaker. What's more, the mover of the motion has spoken to the issue of delimitation. Many Kenyans listening to me think that when delimitation will take place, they'll get new constituencies. No. There'll be no new constituencies. What we'll have is the change in boundaries, and in some cases, the change of the names of the electoral units. That's it. If you are at home there expecting to get a new constituency, forget about it. And if you think we should propose the amendment of the Constitution to the article whose number I've forgotten, that provides that Kenya shall have 290 constituencies. Until you amend that, your constituency can be as big as some of those constituencies are, but you won't get it because of this NADCO report. The last point I want to make on IEBC and this NADCO is the issue of the presidential election. We must go all out of our way, and Speaker, when that time is necessary, I know you can't come to legislate, I'll come to you, you help me, so that we can graft the law in such a manner that there can be a closure of a presidential election. After we voted, Mr. Speaker, in 1992, there was no closure until people jostled, and that before we could know it, there was something called cooperation, because there was no closure of the presidential election. Mr. Speaker, in 2007, there was no closure of the presidential election. It went on until our country went bust, only coming to be calmed because of the so-called Nusumukate. Mr. Speaker, there must be a closure of a presidential election. Fast forward, and Mr. Speaker, 2017, you couldn't get closure of the presidential election. It went on, a lot of noise, loss of lives, destruction of properties, until some Mongorel that you called handshake came on and stabilized the country. You can see the same nonsense is what we are going through now. Instead of closing the election, we are still talking about the presidential election. Up to until now, we are talking about something called broad-based government. For those of us who have committed our lives to the respect of the Constitution and the rule of law, I am unable to see a single article in the Constitution that is called broad-based. We must learn how to bring presidential elections to a closure. Mr. Speaker, I would like to speak to special funds. I don't know whether it is the mover who forgot, but you have spoken to special funds and spoken about only two: National Government Constitutional Development Fund and National Government Affirmative Action Fund. I've heard you that. Why are you not speaking Oversight Fund? Yes, I would like him to inform me.
Proceed to inform the Honourable Senator, Senator Sige.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to inform in the affirmative the Honourable Senator Boni Khalwale that the third special fund that was considered in the NADCO report is indeed the Senate Oversight Fund. It could have been an oversight on my part as I moved the motion that I left out. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that confirmation. We want it to be in the open that an oversight fund is necessary. In the last few months that, Mr. Speaker, I've been allowed access to oversight funds, I can see the returns. I can even see the number of vehicles that used to be in the governor's entourage. The number of times the siren used to wake up sleeping villages when the governor was coming from drinking alcohol in the night, going home. You hear dogs barking, and because dogs have got a higher sense of hearing than us, they have picked the siren from a distance. Now that has gone down. I have heard, because of oversight funds, for the first time, are saying, senators, please bring us money quickly. In an event, example, the oversight fund in the hands of the affirmative action by the woman MP, we don't see it. The only thing we hear is that the millions, 140 million shillings plus per year, is used for buying parts. Are parts that expensive? If they were that expensive, really, that the millions of shillings are swallowed by the expenditure of parts, I think you guys call it in good English, sanitary tiles. My daughter is seated there at the desk, at the clerks at the desk, the ones who normally teaches me good English. It can't, it's a lie. So we need to audit these people. I saw Gladys Wanga when she was woman MP. She put up markets. But others go around in Kakamega telling people, I have bought umbrellas. An umbrella, really? Of 150 shillings? And that is what you have to show for your affirmative action. Mr. Speaker, we can do better. The final point that I like to make in my submission, as I second this, is on constitutional amendments. Senator Mugeni, you must help us. We don't want another BBI2 in the name of NADCO. If we are amending the Constitution, let us ban the midnight oil. We do things the proper way. What is supposed to go for a referendum, let the people decide. If there is a clause, Senator Mugeni, I came to learn during the fight against BBI that you have certain aspects of the Constitution which you cannot amend. The lawyers taught me at that time that you call them the essential clauses. We want this debate to start now so that we don't waste time in courts fighting NADCO in the name of BBI 2. Up to now, when we shall come to vote, I am one of the people who will vote against expansion of the executive. I do not understand the benefit of an expanded executive. Take, for example, the chapatis that the governor of Nairobi was talking about yesterday. You can see the benefits. The primary school children from Mukuru Kwanjenga, from Kawangware, they benefit from those chapatis. We want decisions that translate into returns on investment. So what if we have a prime minister with 2 deputies and a president with a deputy? How is it going to improve the lives of the people? Other than just stroking the ego of the big men of Kenya and big women to share positions of power. The office I would certainly support is the leader of the opposition. Under this new constitution, because of the provision of majority and minority, the leader of opposition makes a lot of sense. That I would support. Mr. Speaker, with all those remarks, I strongly second the motion for adoption of the report of the National Dialogue Committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, honorable senators, I'll proceed to propose the question that the Senate adopt the joint report of the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs and the Senate Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights on its consideration of the report of the National Dialogue Committee, NADCO, and the report of the multi-sectoral working group on the realization of the 2 transgender principle laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 13th of February 2025. Now, the floor is open to debate, but before I call upon senators wishing to make their comments, allow me to communicate this information. I'd like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this afternoon of visiting students leaders from Mount Kenya University. The delegation comprises 4 students who are in the Senate for a 1-day academic exposition on the invitation of the Senator for Bomet County, Senator Wakili Hilary Sigei, CBS MP. Honorable Senators, I request each member of the delegation to stand when called out so that you may be acknowledged in the Senate tradition. Mr. Evans Kiprono Korir, the President. Mr. Calvin Rono, an Executive Member. Ms. Ivy Chebore, Executive Member, and Ms. Ivan Peter, Executive Member. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I will call upon the Senator for Bomet and the 1 minute to extend a word of welcome to the 4 students' leaders.
Once again, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to welcome the visiting young leaders who have taken their time to come and appreciate what goes on in this particular house. I want to encourage them that as they assume their various offices of leadership in the university, they take cue with what they have seen, what they have witnessed in this particular house as regards the kind of leadership that they should exhibit as they lead the students from the institution they come from. I am encouraged by the fact that they took upon themselves the responsibility to also, at a very early age, take leadership as a very important part and parcel of their growth in the institutions. And I want to encourage you to not only be involved with the politics of the institution that you are leading, but also the politics that affect the general public, because at the end of your 4-year term in the university, you will be out there and expected to give back to the society, both as a resident of wherever you come from, as an elite, so to speak, and as a leader who should participate in what goes on in the society at large. Once again, welcome to the Senate, and I hope you will take home what you didn't have as you came into this house in this afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.